Welcome, everybody, to Writers Morning Out, a free gathering of writers of any genre, of any level, sponsored by the North Carolina Writers Network. I'm Penny, and today we have George Kauffman presenting on technology and devices in the writing process, and Judith and Carol will also be adding to his presentation. So welcome, everybody.
Hey, good to be here. So, shall we start? I guess so.
Yeah.
All right. So let me just preface all of this by, years ago I was teaching classes about how to dictate, how to write by dictating, just because it was something I was doing some years ago. And so some people were interested and I did that. So that's what's my thoughts behind today. But the more I got into it, it's like, oh my goodness, there's all this other stuff. And so we've come up with all these other things that can help people to write. And recognizing that there are points of view and there are attitudes about they're not going to be using, some may use some may use none of this with all of that. So I started to do this class as I started planning it out. Oh my gosh, there's so much. So my point of view of what I'm going to do today is I realize it's got to be more of a macro view with, I hope, enough information that you would say, oh, well, that sounds interesting. I'd like to check it out. Or maybe even, I wouldn't mind, because I've offered to do some workshops if there's interest on a bunch of topics, and I've actually attended a workshop. So that rather than really explaining anything in any great detail today, it's going to be a survey on these things that's going to show you hopefully enough in order to handle the logistics of, because we say we do a recording in an hour, and so I've taught a bunch of college, and you certainly don't like to run your class after when it's over. It doesn't work out very well. So we're targeting to make sure we're done in an hour. We're already at almost 110. So it runs us to 210, and I'm going to keep the hour, Carol. But any questions? So I don't want to be, I'd prefer that we have a wide open question as we go. But I'm going to, if I might have a spot here and there where you take question, but I would say throw questions in chat or keep a note. And when we get to the end of this, I'm available for whatever you want to ask about. All right. And there are, of course, Carol Phillips will be making a presentation. Judith is, I'm touching her for a little bit of stuff on some of her experience as well. We'll do that. Okay. So with that, so most of you have not had the opportunity to even see the outline per se of what we're doing today. But if I could do this, I just have to find the right one. That's the worst part of sharing. Workers are using devices. Now, I hate wasting time doing this, but I think this is the one. Text for word using devices. Yeah, here it is. Let's try this one. Okay. So this is, you should see the whole window, including the headings at the top, don't you? Do you see outlining and auto
Yes.
save, all that
Yes.
stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So when you are in Microsoft Word, this happened just as I was writing. I thought, well, I'm using an outline. Oh, maybe I should mention outlining. It's not going to teach you how to use outlining. It's just going to be, this is how I use it, why it might help you or might not help you. So in outlining, you can choose to start with just a bunch of headlines or a bunch of major topics. And then you can indent and add another one below it and another one indented below that. And so if I were writing a serious paper or something, that's what I would do. I'd probably put my 3, 4, 5 major sections, and then I would start doing subheadings beneath them and all that stuff. And there's formatting to this. Catherine suggested to me that I do some numbering with, with capital 1 and A and so forth and so on, and I did. But so what we have today is, let me see, can I do this? So we have one section on outlining, another one on dictation, a little bit about it, editing tools. There's all kinds of tools out there today. We're going to go through those. There's reviewing tools, which is something that came up as I was doing this. I thought, this is something we're using as writers. And then I have a separate section where there's a list of possible sessions that we could do as workshops that people could attend if they want to do it. All right. So that's the background on that.
Can you
So this,
show, George, can you show them how you can collapse the outline?
well, I just forgot how to do it. Let me see.
Oh,
Go
you click on the little arrow next to that.
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah.
You mean that there?
Yeah, right next to that.
Oh, yes, thank you. So I wanted to do this. Let me see if I do it here. So we'll go back in there. That's it now. Bring it back, double click brings it back.
Oh, okay.
But you,
Very
So
nice.
I do these, it just shrinks that section. I'd love to be able, I want to be able to show the major headings. In other words, you can do this in Microsoft Excel. You can do outlining like this, and it really works well. So you can have a really detailed spreadsheet. If you set it up with outlining, you can pop it down and just see the major sections, just to throw that out to you. And this one, I haven't tried doing what you're saying, Carrollton, but that's how we do it. So outlining, this is an outline, formatted levels, lots of benefits. It's a good place to outline what you want to do, a speech, a presentation. You can start with the bare bones and then you can return later and you can add levels. And if you want to work on one particular section, you can do detailed levels there and not do it in another level. So it's nice. So I really want to touch very lightly on this, but something called styles. So when I wrote my novel last year, I had written a heading like chapter 1 in certain type style. And then I wrote a subheading with a title, which was a little bit smaller and had a little less space around it. Okay. And I had 65 chapters, so I say something like that. And when I went to make a change to it, I had to go through 65 times
Oh.
of the headings and 65 times to the subheading. Okay. And then when I wanted to submit it somewhere and they only wanted 12 point, I had a couple ways to go, and one way was to go in 65, or I could select all and make it all 12 point. But it was like, I could do this better. So I used styles. So when I change it to styles, these dictate these levels here. Each one has a style assigned to it. So part 1, I don't want to get into styles, but in there you can choose your spacing around your sentence or following your paragraph, the type style it is, whether it's bold, how large it is, and everything. So at that level, it gets a style assigned to it. And then if you assign that style, like I did to my 65 chapter names, my 65 subheads, I could go in and just change the style one time. And it changed all 65 chapters names and all 65 subheads. And then if I wanted to change them to 12 point, I go in and just change the style to 12 and they all change. And that's specific in your document. So it doesn't change necessarily all of your whole program, just where you are. And if I'm wrong on some of these things, what can I say? But I think I'm mostly right. All right. So the other thing just to show you was, so say at this chapter, this section, when I'm in an outline and I wanted to move B to A, I can do this, click on that little plus thing, and I can move it up to here. It renumbers it to A. And then A becomes B. So all the renumbering and everything is done. So that's handy for those that care about it. All right. And then, of course, the most famous helpful button for me is Command Z or undo. Unless, I wish we had the undo in life, but it just doesn't happen for us. You know what I mean? So devices. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to stick right here. So on the software. So Dragon Naturally Speaking, I wrote my first book on it, which is not finished yet after 40 years, maybe a little more than that. But I wrote it somewhere in the 90s or 2000s. And Dragon is a separate company. It's expensive. You can spend $600 now. I think it was like $200 then.
Wow.
But it is, and it works on Windows, not on Mac. But at the time I had to use Windows. So, but Dragon is it comes with a whole, if you want to pay extra, a separate dictionary for lawyers, a separate dictionary for doctors.
Oh, wow.
Offices can use it, and it knows all the words. And the biggest thing about Dragon is if it types a word wrong and it doesn't match the way you do it. Say you spell Catherine with a C in your book, spelling it with a K. You right click on it and you save it, and then it remembers it from there on out in that book for you, or a particular proper name that's spelled a weird way. So that was so helpful. So then when you're dictating it, you don't have to worry about those things being wrong if you take the time to teach it. So that was very good.
Mhm.
I think you can buy cheaper versions, older ones, and all that. Now, this also want to add this. When I was using Dragon, writing this is non-fiction stuff, I bought their headphones, which they were selling, and they were better. So they came with a microphone that was better than I had. So it did a better recording with less errors. And then I bought their portable recorder so that I could be in a car and I could dictate a section, come back home, plug it into the computer, and would transcribe right into Dragon and right into the book. So for what it's worth, that was really handy from an efficiency point of view. The best part, that was the fact that it was translated in. Listen, I don't know that Thomas Wolfe would be very much interested in this whole conversation. If I remember what I was told is he wrote his 750-page books. He sat down and wrote them out in longhand, threw them all but in a barrel and gave them to his agent. He didn't number the pages. Now, that might not be true, but that's what I was told. So I don't know that he'd be too cool about dictation software, but that's the story on that. So I just wanted to show you, if I open let me see, an email. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to open an email. No, no, I'm going to open Microsoft Word document. That's what I'm going to do. Changing as I go. So a new document, and then I have to go back here to find that new document. Share. Document 4. Okay. Oops. Do you see document 4? No, it's not there yet. Let me get back. There it is. All right. Okay. So if the way it works in my computer, there's a couple things. My computer, Macintosh, has a microphone on it. I can push. It lets me dictate. I have a key set. I can like push the command button twice and it starts dictating for me. So just if I'm going to do that, let's see if this is dictating or not.
Oh,
No, just a second. I have to do it again. Ah. This is my first attempt to use dictation on a Zoom call. Here's a new paragraph, open quotes. I've never done anything like this before with Microsoft Word, period, close quotes. Josh got up from the desk and went over to the window, period, open quotes. Let's see if this dictating works or not, exclamation or point, close quotes, new paragraph. Open quotes, comma, close quotes, Sally said, comma, open quotes. People have been doing this for years. M dash, dictating, comma, rather than writing by hand, exclamation point, close quotes. So this may not be new to any of you, but I thought for some people, they're intimidated by this. It's not that hard. This is using my Macintosh and Microsoft Word. So I don't know if it's actually using Word's dictating or not. Word has its own dictation. So when you go to Microsoft Word, at least Office 365 version of Microsoft Word, it has the dictation capability. And you click on the microphone. So in addition to what I'm doing here, you can look it up. It comes with a whole set of commands. So then you could select a word. Like, I don't know if I know which one I'm in. Let me see. When I'm in this one, I'm going to go to Word, dictate. I have to move this down a minute. All right. Now I got to get back to Word now. Excuse me. Back to the window. All right, so I have a bar in my way that I'm, there we go. Dictate, dictate, dictate. So if I press the dictation button, which I'm trying to find in this view, I'm seeing, by the way, when I'm in Word right now, where I'm dictating, I'm in the outlining view, and I really should have changed the view to print layout. So that would have been the real dictation you'd have been seeing.
Oh, yeah.
See what I
Yes.
mean? I was in
Mhm.
outline view when I was dictating. So now we're here in this one. And then up in here, it's the dictate button. You see that?
Mhm.
I press that and this works correctly. Select dictating. Capital. Undo that. Undo that. Select dictating. Capitalize. Did you see that? So it did it. Now I don't do much editing with Microsoft Word, but there's a whole set of commands that will let you select a word and do things to it. So if it may get in the way of your process, but so did you pick up how dictating changed?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Just to show you that. All right. So enough of that one. I'm going to close that out. Unless there's any comment or question quickly. We're good for the moment.
No, it was interesting because like watching the dictation happen, the program was actively editing itself as it went along. Like it typed out the letter M in a dash when you gave it that command, and then it quickly got rid of the M when it realized that's not what you meant.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it does.
It's very smart. It edits itself.
Yeah.
So I think it's getting better. And I've been Googling trying to see if AI is directly involved in this. I have not found anything, and Carol may have something to say about that, but that says that AI is actually helping you with the dictation process. It'll do it with the other stuff. It'll look at it, it'll help, it'll dictate. You can tell it to give you something and it'll give it to you. But I would like an AI assisted dictation program that would be smart like Dragon is, because I have a Mac and I had Dragon on when I first got my Mac and it was so bad they quit supporting it. And so this is fair, this Mac, but not as good as Dragon was. So for what it's worth. Okay, is that helpful? I just thought for people who never use dictation or see it, that maybe you would say, oh, well, maybe I could use it. The back to my outline. Let's get back to my outline. Uh-oh. Excuse me. So devices, I'm moving on to devices and how to use them. And I'm going to change the view from outline to print layout. So you're going to see something like this, which is more, and this, by the way, we're going to put onto our Google Drive so people can get it. And I'll count on Penny and Carol to figure out how you all find out how to do that. But this document will be there with my notes. You can put up with them or not, but so dictation so there's dictation. That's what I went through, and then there are devices and how to use them. There's two parts to this. There's the software, the programs that'll help you do this, which are getting richer and richer, and some of those are going to come up down below in the next section, editing tools. But we'll take a moment on devices. So your computer's dictation capability. These days, I said I dictate about 90% of what I write on my computer, except I don't dictate my fictions or poems. Tom, I don't know, Tom, maybe I could, but I get concerned about that. I haven't had the nerve to do it yet. But I am thinking I probably could dictate my memoir material because I'm telling a story. because I know everybody varies, but I'm able to tell stories to people. And that's how I started writing again, as my family said. You tell so many stories, Dad, you should be writing these down. And I thought, oh, I hate typing. So I started to write my novel, and then I did that. And now I'm thinking of trying to how to be more efficient. So I dictate 90% of the time. Part-time, I run an environmental agency in Pennsylvania. I have 15 employees. I work about 10 hours a week here in Durham. And we do it. We have a big contract for $3.5 million. We have another thing. We get lots done. So I have to be really efficient. So I dictate emails like crazy, and I dictate outlines and agendas and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just telling you, it comes in really handy. On my tablet, I wrote my novel, the one I finished last year, on my iPad Pro, with the one that came with the Apple keyboard. And like I said, I hate typing, and I never written a novel before. With even despite majoring in creative writing, I never wrote a novel. So I can tell you it's very doable, and I did it without dictation. But that's the story on that. And my phone, you can do it too. So text messages I dictate on my phone. I learned from my son-in-law to dictate text while I'm driving. And that way I don't have to look. It really works very well. So, and then I showed you the email I showed you Word. Well, email is just as simple. I open an email and I start dictating just the same way. It rolls right out, and we did it. Okay. We're gonna have time 1:20. So I want to keep moving. When can you use it? Well, it really depends. Everybody's so different. I know people here said I can't use dictation at all, so that's all right. And but if you find that you can use it, or you give yourself a chance and then start to use it, it might come in very handy for you. As I said, I haven't had the nerve to try to do a chapter in a novel yet, but maybe.
Yeah, George,
Yeah.
why? Why do you think that that's different than doing a nonfiction?
Well, I think you're right, but I'm not sure you're right. You know what I mean? We
No,
don't.
I didn't offer opinion. I was just wondering what you saw as the difference.
Wait a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I misunderstood your question. You say, what's the difference between writing fiction and nonfiction with dictation?
Yeah, I'm just wondering why your hesitation. What?
Well, it was, when I wrote my novel, it was like this mystical process. I swear, I've never had a mystical process like it in my life. I don't know where it came from. I didn't have an outline. The chapters, I didn't know what happened till I wrote them. And I'm like, if I sit down to dictate, I always know what I'm going to say. So I don't know if I sat down to write a chapter and said, okay, let's dictate it. I haven't had the nerve to try it. So that's why I'm saying that. It might.
If I may say so, George, I just recommend you giving it a try, because I was surprised. I had written my first two novels, drafting them pen in hand on paper and transcribing that. And then I got injured. I was trying to help my husband with tearing out some shrubbery, and I tried to keep up with him. Not a good idea. And so in desperation, because I had this third novel outlined, we got me Dragon Naturally Speaking. This was 25 years ago almost. So it was an old early version, but I don't remember any hesitation, any feeling of it was still just the same direct process, because I was already focused on this story and these characters, and it even perhaps made dialogue more fun.
Right.
Um,
I guess I have to try it then.
yeah, just give it a chance. One of the fun things then, which may not be true anymore, it might have been because also of my the what's left of my Southern accent, it would make some really colossal errors. And I wish I still had them, because it was just malapropisms all over the place. And they were often hilarious, but always easy to fix.
Of course, as like I said, if you right-clicked on that, you could correct it to have it come out right, and I believe it would adjust to your accent. But
Yeah, it did, and it did pretty soon, but that's, and if I,
anybody else want to say anything about that before I go back to the little outline? What do you think? Any other thoughts, Carol? I hear what you're saying. I'm creating my own barriers, right? Perhaps. So it would be nice if I could dictate because I type so badly. All right.
oh, that's another reason.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't type at all.
Yes.
And so that was either dictate or skip a year.
Yeah, when we went to school, the people that took typing were going to work out and become secretaries. That's what it was. If you're going to college, you didn't take typing. Of course, we didn't have computers, Bryce, you know. Nothing even approaching that. All right, so back to my outline, if I might.
Oh, Anne, you have a quick comment.
Yeah, just that I didn't ever, I mean, I really seriously think about that because I have my next challenge, which is an addition to my MBA thesis, which was awesome, which is very involved with finance. And it's with a neck injury, it's inconceivable that I could type it. So this is my solution. Thank you. Can't believe it. Okay.
Well, Dragon is really impressive if you have Windows.
As what say it again? What?
If you have a Windows computer, Dragon is really impressive.
Dragon. Okay. I'll look into it.
But anyhow.
Okay.
Cool. That's good. All right. So you should now see where we are in the outline. So when is dictation best used? We're getting to editing tools. And I have discriminated between editing and reviewing, which that's sort of a subjective breakdown, but I'm going to define editing to be what we ourselves are doing with our own work, trying to get it better, trying to improve it. All right. And these are really overviews. I'm going to just simply say, rather than show you the pricing on each one, most of them have free versions and there are premium versions, usually more than one. And you can go in and you can choose which you want to use based on what it offers. So Grammarly, and someone feel free to add to this, I think Carol's had experience. What I see, it does lots of grammar kind of things, just like you would think. So the time I looked at Grammarly, I heard of AutoCrit. And AutoCrit is, and this will all be in that document so that links about where to go will be there. AutoCrit it's an analysis program. I spent $180 for a 1-year subscription last February. And I started to use some of the tools. It goes word by word, gives you the word that occurs most often and the second most often, et cetera, et cetera. Now, so I had some word that was in there. I forget how many, it was probably 3,000 times. But when I was done, I had it down to 1,500 or whatever, different words. And it lets you go through the document word by word by word. And so you see the context and you go, no, I'm going to keep it there just the way it is. So I found that helpful for me. I didn't finish though. I have what is it, about 80,000 words. I'm probably halfway through and I cut out about 3,000 words at that point, which I had mixed feelings about because I didn't really want to go under 80,000 words, but I think I've got rid of some of the wordiness. If I may, I'm just going to try to give you a quick look at AutoCrit. Maybe I have to move it over here. I have two monitors. I've had some mixed success at using the second monitor when I share it. So share, I'm going to look for Chrome, Safari. Okay. So this is the AutoCrit page. I'll move it back to the left. That moves for you when I move it too, right? Hopefully, I don't know. All right. So it does a bunch of things. It categorizes what you write by the category you choose, and you could choose to assign genres. and I made this historical fiction. This is a novel, right, from last year. But it will do a whole bunch of things like planning, fiction story builder. It can help you plan it. I didn't want planning. I wanted to write. But it'll do analysis, and it analyzes by chapter, chapter by chapter, and an overall view and a character analysis. And I haven't looked at backwards blueprint, but what it does, if I were to skip down here to chapter 1, there's chapter 1. And it summarizes the chapter in about, there's five paragraphs with a summary about the end of the book. It talks about the conflict, what it sees as a conflict. It doesn't get all this right. It gets confused sometimes. Although it did tell me, I just saw the other day, Judith, yesterday, I think, if I rerun the analysis multiple times, it gets better with it. So it's like it rereads the book and it improves its analysis.
Interesting.
I know. So I haven't done that yet. So it gives character analysis, the point of view, world building. Here's the world. Here's the contradictions that it sees. Well, some of them it really misunderstood. They were not. A timeline analysis, some foreshadowing, the plot thread tracking, the genre analysis. Within the genre, it fits within the historical fiction. And then it goes to chapter 2 out of the 60-some chapters. So it has 79,557 words up there on the left. It has a nonfiction analyzer, which is used for that. It has a summary report, which if I click on it, I'm not even sure. It may have to go through a process. But anyhow, without spending too much time on it, it was helpful for me to find lots of words I repeated. We have several words we use that I would have if I had time to think about it, not used. So it would let me go word by word through the text and look at that word and say, yeah, I still want that there. In other words, I have some people talking with words that I want them to say that, and an analyst might say, those are not good words, but that's what I want them to use. So anyhow, so my score, it gives me my scores. So for my category, there's my scores for, must be a good score. They like the score. And they recommend things you should do. Pacing momentum is snappy, 88.2%. I do, when I wrote this, I consciously tried to move the whole framework down to several months, but the frame to frame, I mean, the chapter to chapter almost felt like frame to frame. I felt like I wanted it to move. And thank goodness, at least they agree. So they gave me some slow paced paragraphs. This is 4.2% are slow paced. So historical fiction tends to have 185. I got 87. So average words per paragraph are right on. By word count, I have 905 with 25 words or less, etc. Average words per sentence, mine are a little shorter. Sentence by word count, I don't know what that means. Number of sentences found in each word length bucket. And lastly, dialogue, it likes the dialogue, I think. And dialogue tags, which Judith taught me about. And so my counts for dialogue tags, apparently that's pretty good to have dialogue tags, right? So, so I'm doing a little better than the average. And adverbs, and so strong writing, it's showing versus telling. So it says I'm doing more showing. I'm sorry, I'm doing more telling than I should think. I don't know. Oh, I can run the report and then I get a little more detail and I can see what it does. So, and listen, there's so much stuff. Cliches, I have more cliches, but I have people that talk in cliches. I want them to some degree. Not too much. I don't want to upset the reader, but there's a tendency. Word choices, power words, all that. Okay. Just stop it there.
It's just a powerful tool.
Yeah, and so you have to decide whether you benefit and of course whether you can afford to do it. You don't have to buy though. It comes with some free version, I believe, again, and then you can get other versions and you can buy it by month. I paid the 180, it was a little cheaper, and I thought I'm going to use it. but I really haven't since I've worked on the novel. So that's it for today. All right. Let me get back to, oh, I got to go back to share. I'm going to share you with the outline just to tell you. Is this moving along all right? Time-wise, you guys okay? Everybody's all right? Not hearing complaints. I guess we're all right. Maybe everybody's just muted and that's it.
Yeah, they've muted themselves.
That's right. So I don't have to hear any complaints at the moment. All right.
Out of respect, didn't want to interrupt.
That's pretty cool. All right. So the next three sections, Carol Phillips, who has been our person in charge of our whole group for a number of years, and it just stepped aside, and Penny's now doing it. But Carol offered to talk about these next three sections. Carol, you have it. I'm going to stop sharing my document, and you're welcome to go. She's going to talk about well, 1, 2, 3, 4. You got a couple sections there: pro writing aid, AI Copilot, and Chat GPT. All right, you got it, Carol.
Okay, thank you, George. Pro writing aid is similar to AutoCrit. You might have seen Atmospheric Press recommendation of the program if you opened the link on their blog about rewriting that I put in this month's newsletter. It has a free option that I'll be demonstrating. It also has premium levels that run from $120 to $144 a year. You can also do that by month. Pro Writing Aid works with 27 different platforms. If you download it to your computer, including Word, Google Doc, Pages, Scrivener, Evernote, excuse me, and some I've never heard of, like Atticus, Campfire, Fade-In. I said 27. One of the Penny? Oh, there it is. Okay. Why is that showing? Okay. One of the things that, I'm sorry it took so long. One of the things that Pro Writing Aid does or offers is style guides that you can change to suit your needs. So you have sentence lengths and passive voice, you have tone of voice, you have business and punctuation, numbers, dates and times. So you can set parameters for all of those. And for each one, it allows you to specify whether you want it to be in all documents or one type of document or all documents except some documents. So it's rather versatile. And before I go on to show you some of the features of it, I want to emphasize again what George was talking about. You use these as guidelines. Rick Bellina, I don't know if any of you ever met him. He used to be a strong participant here, had a motto that said, the only rule is writers write. Everything else is guidelines. So I think that that's really important. To demonstrate and demonstrate that point, I put in a short story by William Tever called The Teacher's Pupil. And as you can see, if you don't know Trevor, he's one of the foremost short story writers of the 20th century. So he's not and as you can see, he didn't fare very well Um, uh, part of the grammar and spelling could be because he's Irish, but they didn't like his style score. They certainly didn't like his pacing. And if you read anything of him, you know that that's his voice, that's his style. That's what he does. So if he was looking at this, he would ignore this, or he might think, "Oh, good, I'm doing it right. I'm doing what I want to do." The so you can do this as just kind of a quick snapshot, or you can have a summary. And like AutoCrick, it gets very detailed, and it puts it into a lot of graphs. So you can, they didn't like his adverb usage. Oh no, actually they did. They thought that was good. And then so forth. So you can see, you can really get in the weeds here, like you can in AutoCrit. It also has a summary function in the free version, but I couldn't find it. And I didn't spend a lot of time on it. George asked me to do this yesterday afternoon, so I didn't have much time.
Right.
Where am I?
I mean, it's okay if you don't do the summary. We're doing overview anyhow.
There you go. The Microsoft Copilot does summarize work. Copilot is an IA function that Microsoft just added to their Office and their Word. And the Word 365 subscription on Windows offers it for free. It costs extra on Apple, and I don't know about other versions of Word.
I pay $20 a month on Apple with the Microsoft suite. I pay about $100 for the Microsoft 365 or Office 365. And then I pay $20 a month for Copilot on a Mac.
So I put, oh, wait a minute, here. I put, as I said, and I don't know how much it costs for the other versions of Word. So I could or could not. I put a piano teacher's pupil into Copilot and asked Copilot to summarize. And you can see it gives a short little summary, and then it does it by some categories, but it's fairly brief. Copilot, Word also has an editor function. Word has an editor function, and I thought that I would show that to you so that you can compare. It's not as in the weeds as AutoCrit or Pro Writing Aid, but it does give you some. And you can see that, Trevor didn't do all that well. Well, he did fairly well here, better than he did with Pro Writing Aid. Let's see, where am I? Okay. I also, Copilot will also help you, that's that one, let's see. Will help you write scenes if you're having problems with it. So I wrote this funny little ditty about a goat sitting on a hillside in the spring, and he hates purple and green. So I first asked Copilot to make the scene more dramatic. And so they beefed up this the setting, and the goat then gazes intently on the feast, and ends with, "Oh, how I despise the sight of purple and green." I then asked it to make it funny, and again, it kind of beefs up the setting a bit, and then ends with, "Green and purple, seriously, who designed the menu? I need a new chef."
Funny.
So again, you can use this as an inspiration. If you get stuck on a scene or something, you can use it as an inspiration, but you don't want to just cut and paste it for all kinds of reasons, but particularly because it's not in your voice and it may not meet the vision of the piece that you're writing. You can also ask it, you can ask it anything you want. You can ask it about time or motion or whatever. I always get this wrong. Chat Chat GPT, here we go. By the way, also will summarize, and I had it summarize the piano teacher's pupil. And you can see that the way Chat, I'm just going to say Chat because I can't get it all out. Chat does it as a narrative, just a narrative summary. But I also put my little ditty in, and I asked it to make it more dramatic. And you can see that they really picked up the setting with the dawn shatters the night, spilling golden, molten gold across the trembling earth. And then ends it with, "The world is alive and bursting with beauty, and he loathes it." So much more dramatic.
Yeah.
And then I asked him to do the make it funny. And again, you have the increased setting, and the Chat ends it then with a butterfly fluttering past delicately, landing delicately on a lupin bloom, and the goat glares at it, "Traitor." So you get the idea. Two different takes on it. So as George said, these were just very just brief kind of glances at what these different different programs can offer, and a look at some of their features. But I will caution you again, and I can't emphasize it enough, that if you ask them to rewrite a scene, or you ask them to summarize or anything like that, that you then use it only for inspiration. And you go ahead and put it in your own voice using the vision that you have for that particular piece.
Carol,
Yeah.
thank you for that. Like I just to say, we could have hours of sessions on the appropriateness of where and when we should use that, I imagine.
But I think it's a really good idea to know that it's a tool that if you're stuck,
Right.
you could call on it to do something and it'll be so bad that you'll realize that what you can do is going to be better. And
Oh,
then you
good.
can get back to writing your own stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
I thought Chat GPT was just dreadful.
Yeah.
I think
If you're
it's
having
good.
imposter syndrome really bad one day, it'll
Right, yeah.
remind you you're a good writer.
But as
Compared
I
to
said,
that.
you can use them as inspiration.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, just, oh, well, I could maybe go off on that direction, or maybe I could do that, but,
I could use this word.
well, not even, you know, I could use
Yeah.
that
No, you
concept
guys
and
are
go
so
there.
optimistic. I think we're screwed.
Hmm?
You think
No,
we're in
it
trouble,
was.
you mean? It's gonna
I
take
think
over?
we're in trouble here.
Well, to add on to what's
It
been
writes better
said
than
so
I
far.
do, so that's it.
Well, don't say that. Come on.
I
Right.
wouldn't say that either.
That's
Yeah,
right.
one of the things that I've found with Grammarly and some of these others that, especially look at clarity and whatnot, is that they always want to use less words and condense it. And you do that, and I think Bryce, you would particularly appreciate this, and Tom and Judith. Oh, and Catherine, you got a lot of poets here. You lose the rhythm of the sentence.
Mhm.
You lose the connotations and the depth of what you're trying to say. So,
Right.
you know, they may be absolutely correct if you're writing something for business or academic, but not if you're being creative. So,
Yeah, and actually to go back to the dictation for a second too, George, I was thinking about it and I could see how using dictation for nonfiction makes a bit more sense. I know there's like an artistry to writing nonfiction, and you can have some leeway with how you present a scene, or present information, of course, but you are still being very precise with your language. You have to make sure you're being accurate, whereas with fiction, you can have those creative flourishes, and maybe I'm just a chaotic writer, but having it like written out in front of me so I can actively like make edits and like come up with things on the fly. Um, yeah, I can't really see myself doing that with dictation.
Well, that's sort of where I was. I mean, Carol's and Judith has caused me to think, okay, I'm going to try it. But it's sort of that process, that synthesization that goes on, that wherever, like I said, these chapters, I would sit down and I know these three characters in me, and I speculate what I thought would happen, and I write it, and sometimes it didn't happen that way. And I had like no control. I was just typing it pretty badly, less.
and Judith, when you dictated your book, you had an outline for it.
I
if I
did.
remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I knew where I was, where I went. Well, of course, it was a romance, so I knew how it was going to end. Happily ever after.
All knowing where it's going to end.
It might be the dictation for fiction might be good for those who are plotters and not so much as for the pantsers of us. So,
Leslie.
Yeah, this is my first introduction to dictation in terms of fantasy. There was an awkwardness when I went from writing with my quill feather on yellow pads to the computer, and now it seems so natural, and it keeps me slow when I type. I'm a reasonably good typer, but when I type, I can organize my thoughts because it gives me time to do that, even if I'm a pantser. The only way, and it seems awkward to me now, where dictation might work, is it gives you the bones of the story.
Yeah.
And you have that foundation as you skitter through the plot as it evolves in your head, and then you can go back, and at least you have something to hang your story on, and then you write your story. But it's so new to me. This is the first time I've seen it, that it seems a bit awkward. So I'm assuming it's as awkward as it was going from the chicken feather to the computer.
Unless you're talking
I
about
actually did that. I had my grandchildren here, and I was giving them a history lesson. They were 5, and we had goose feathers, and we made pens.
Oh, cool.
That's
It wasn't
awesome.
so cool.
Very
It was a mess
cool.
all over the house.
Oh.
There's the old chisel I used to use before that. So you're talking about dictating though, Leslie,
Yeah,
is
it seems awkward, but it's I don't have the muscle memory for it's so new. And one question, George, those programs you were talking about earlier, software and stuff, that was on regular Apple, Microsoft?
What I dictated today was in Word on Apple, was Microsoft's Windows on Word. But if you want to use dictation in Word, you have to have Office 365 apparently,
Okay,
I
which
don't,
is about
I
$100.
don't think so.
Well, when I Googled it yesterday, it said that, Carol, but I didn't go past
Oh, okay,
one
okay.
reference. One
Okay.
reference. It could be
Okay.
wrong. It might have been wrong.
That could have been.
Accurate.
Yeah, as long as we're on that topic, because I thought I heard you say that Mac also has its own dictation.
Does. Yep.
Okay,
Dictate anything on my Mac.
and that's, you
like
hit
I am.
Command Z twice?
You can know. Well, you can. Well, you
Oh,
go.
Command.
You go to settings, and then somewhere down in accessibility, whatever you look and see, and then you
Okay.
set. You know, you'll find dictation, and you can assign the commands. Mine
Okay.
2 commands on the left command button. Boom, boom. I hit a click, click, and it immediately turns on dictation. Anything I'm doing. So I could dictate in Excel. I could dictate in whatever I'm doing.
Okay, thank you.
Even
Yeah.
in a URL. So
Okay.
that's that. So I guess a closing comment here, and then we're just about into the recording. So let me just bring up one more time the Word document, the outline, and oops, I have to remember how to do this. I got to do that. Even I, as much as I do this, do share by moving screens around. Some people aren't used to doing that, but I'm sliding them all around. Once in a while, it messes me up. Text for Word using devices. I think this is it. Yeah, my outline. So you should see reviewing tools. Is that where you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Or so I just mentioned that Word's got to build in spell check and then the editing check and all that stuff. I get frustrated in Word. It tells me if I don't have a comment in the beginning, I'll let you say after a while, and I don't put a comma, then it gives me an error and it wants a comma. But if I put a comma, it'll say don't put a comma. It's just what it seems like that to me, Judith. What can I say? So, but it does do some suggestions. So the last part, so the reviewing tool, well, 2 parts. The reviewing tools are, I've mentioned this in the past, but not everybody was on. So reviewing is what I would say is when we have people who are looking at what we do, whether it's to be an agent, whether it's to help us with it, to give opinions, feedback, etc. There's the basic way, which is you send a manuscript to them either as a physical document or they print it out. And so if you have a 280-page novel like mine, as I've had people do, I've had a number of people do this with mine. They print out the 280 pages. You know, I had one, my senior Silver Sneakers class, there were 40 some people read my novel because the one lady printed it out, shared it when I was off sick. And I came back, everybody was talking to me about my novel. So, but they had the actual hard copy. But I had other people say, send it to them. I talked to one lady, I said, I haven't heard, what did you find? Did you read the book or what? She said, well, I was reading it on my iPhone. She says, I couldn't, after I got halfway through it, it's just so hard because every time you start, it doesn't remember where you were. So imagine a 280-page novel. How many pages would that be in an iPhone? 1,000 pages, 1,500 pages? You have to find where you were the last time, each time. So for people who are going to review your manual, your document, keep in mind, especially if it's lengthy, there are some things you can do. And the best one is, so Tracy Crow is our agent, among other things, and our expert on craft and writing, who does the last Tuesday of the month sessions. She's outstanding. A couple of days before she was looking at my manuscript, I had just read somewhere, and I found the same thing is, if you open your document in Microsoft Word, imagine my 280-page novel, you go to File, you go to Export, I think it is, and under File and Export, you can, oh, it might be Share, yeah. No, it says Share.
Here it says send documents to Kindle.
And over under the Share menu in mine, I don't know what it says in Windows, does it say Share?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, among the choices, or you can send it to PDF, you can send it to Kindle. So if you have people who are going to review your document, I suggest, even if they don't have Kindle, provided they at least have computers and modern day technology to some degree, have them set up a Kindle library, sign in with a password and a thing. And then this, when you go through the process, will ask you, I think it'll try to find the Kindle. My case, it knew already, it didn't even have to use a password. Took about 5 minutes. About 5 minutes later, up in my library of all the books, I have hundreds. I buy most of my books electronically, I'm sorry to say. There sat my book, and I even had a little cover on it that I made. There it sat, right, with all the other books. I opened it up. It looked just like all the other books. It was so good, pages and numbers and format, and you could change the size. And when you leave it and come back, it's right where you left it off last time. So I'm just saying, I think that's a really underestimated thing. If you want someone to review your stuff, think about what you're asking them to do. And I just suggest you consider having them do that. All right. And AutoCrit and Word Review will do stuff. That's all I have on that. I just have one other thing. On part 2, as I said, this thing, as Topsy said, just growed today. And it became more of a survey view of stuff. So I thought, how do we work it out? Well, I'm offering, or going to be part of offers, because others may do this too for us, is that we have sessions. I was going to do it every Saturday, but like Catherine said, let's keep it the same Saturday. If we had sessions on, say, the second hour of our normal second Saturday, which is Writers Discuss Writing, where we all just talk about stuff, at 2:00-ish, we could do a workshop. They would not be as specific as, well, I mean, for me, it wouldn't be. I thought that we could just get into one of the topics and talk about them. So some of the topics are background info. That I want to talk about just a moment before we end today, but and then dictation, outlining, editing tools, styles, reviewing tools, and there might be other topics that people might say, why don't we do this? And then maybe somebody among us that's better suited to talk about that. So the first question I have is, and I want to talk before you end up, but it can be after the recording. I want to talk about I have something I'll share if anybody wants it. What do y'all think? Anybody interested if we did a workshops as an extra thing for free? Catherine, yes. Leslie, all right. So we have at least 2 or 3. Judith, if we get 2 or 3, we can do it. We can do the outline. So what I'm going to do with Penny and Carol, I was going to have this sent out, and then Carol suggested, let's put it on the Google Drive. I think we have to be sure, Carol, that people know how to get to the Google Drive some way. Maybe not everybody does that. I
have put the link to the Google Drive in the newsletter for the last 2 or 3 newsletters.
And all they have to do is click on the link and it takes them to the spot.
Yeah, amazing.
I know. I found my challenges. But okay, so if we do that, we can send it out. And what I'm going to ask people to do is, as part of that, we'll have to put out a note, I think, Penny, that says, okay, here's the list. It's in the Google Drive, but anybody that's interested, please email back if you're interested. And if you have specifics you're interested in or not, that helps us too. And if you have a session that you think we're not covering that might be worth doing, and if you could do it, or if you're just interested in it, we'll find someone to do it. We can just offer these as workshop things, as extra stuff. Is everybody okay with that? Does that look good?
I think that's great, George.
It's like an extra capability, and so it's not about me. It's like whatever we can do. So these will be very much participative, and I would expect them to be, again, we do an hour on that, and if anybody wants to go longer and had specific things, I'd help them afterwards, or anybody else can help them with that. All right.
Okay, thank you.
So that's that. The last thing I wanted to take, and we're past our 2 hour, but I want to share one more thing. If I'm able to get this where I want this. All right. I don't even know if this is a good idea, but I'm going to do it. Stop share. Share. All right, Excel. This is, Hang on a second, I just have to find the right one. Text for word form, that's. Yeah, here it is. So when I started writing the novel, remember, I majored in creative writing, but it was like 60 years ago. And I hadn't done that. And I started doing a novel with no outline. And as I got working, obviously I found out there were things I needed. And just quickly going to tell you. So I tried to throw down some thoughts of things I needed. I had some historical dates. I thought, oh, I have to put this down. So Prohibition ends, I put that down. And I had when somebody was born, and I started giving a little summary. And then later when I rewrote, I went to Foam 2, which gets a lot more detailed. All right. And I discovered it evolved into a timeline. And then by chapter, I started summarizing the chapters. Let me go out through here a bit more. Point 1.3 was my latest version. So now here's my novel. And I had to do this, or you get into about chapter some 15, you go, wait, I talked about that. What chapter was it? I could jump back and look at my little summary and go, oh, that's where that happened. And so I remember back in chapter 7, somebody did this thing. And I even put page numbers on which kept changing all the time. That's a separate thing that we could automate that I don't want to bother with. 20 years ago, I would have done it. But so now I have a chapter summary that gives me the title of the chapter and it gives me a summary of it. And when I was working on the chapter, I put notes in and I put them in italics if the chapter wasn't finished. So now I could see the chapter title and I go, oh, that's not done. I forgot about that. And there's my little note in italics. And sometimes I want to remember the notes, I'd take them out of italics, but it would mean it would be done. So these chapters are all done, but when they were in process, there might be check on this date. It might be verify that. Are you sure you want to do this? All little notes to myself, like here, what kind of a truck? Is there a back seat? I mean, those are little things that hit me. So that's what's left of it all, very little. But I just found it helpful for me. I throw it out to anybody. Notes and dates, actual notes and dates, all my characters in order of appearance with a little note after them, who they were. These are the characters in the book. And I had some old timelines. I was messing with stuff that's just thrown in there, but that's it. I had something called threads. I realized that I had threads in the book, different things going on. You know how books do that. You have 2 or 3, 4 stories going on that hopefully tie together. Well, initially I had this, then I analyzed it and I discovered I really had 7 threads.
Mm.
And I went through chapter by chapter and I put the dates of the occurrence of the thread about the mafia. They were in all the chapters. These are the chapters they're in. These are the dates when they were the time when they were in the book. And it allowed me to do that. And then at the end, I wanted to make sure I tied the threads off. So I found a bow, put them in. Said, okay, those threads are done. And eventually the other ones were done too. Then I had to choose for some. So, and then I raised a little question. Oh, I need to add something else to that thread. So that's the deal with that. I had some possible ending alternatives. And the last part is I had it sent out this to a bunch of people and I started keeping note of who I sent it to, the date I sent it, the version I sent, so they knew what version they got. I gave them a log line. I got a summary, the response I liked the most from them, and I put it in with the date and an email and all the way down through. I got lots of good reviews, but it let me keep status on people that answered and didn't. Like was helpful for me. Judith did such a nice review. Judith, thank you. But so that was helpful for me to keep track. And now I have to admit, I've lapsed since then. Since I've sent out queries, I have a whole query spreadsheet that tracks all my queries, who I've sent them to, what the responses were. But I just wanted to show you that. Some form of keeping notes instead of keeping cards or pieces of paper. So I thank everybody for listening. I guess we could stop the recording and still take questions if we want. Is that all right?
Yes, George and Carol, thank you so much for this. We are meeting next Saturday for our usual Writers Discuss Writing, so we hope to see you all back there then. And I'll stop the recording and we can chat for as long as people want to stay.